What's up everyone, Duro here. Many of you asked me under my previous videos to provide a much larger detail of the Baltic battalion deck building. So for this video I decided to break you down the Baltic Marines and why I think it's one of the strongest decks at the moment and what are its very few weaknesses at the moment. So when we start with the Recon, we have the usual scout snipers. I take the basic variant because I don't need to use it for fighting. I just need them to be hidden somewhere behind the lines, ideally, and lays the targets for my artillery. Even though this deck is not that artillery dependent, having special pair of eyes behind enemy lines is always useful. It can be useful for your teammates as well. Then we have a KNT. Unlike the Russian equivalent, these guys cannot fight very much. They have only 4 MP5s suppressed, so use them only for revealing enemy positions close to lakes where these guys feel like at home. You also can change to snipers, but we already have scout snipers from the Marines, so we can stay with the KNT variant. Then we have Force Recon, the Black Ops variant, which excels at the close combat. For the 60 points you got 6-man squad with max armor and very price efficient CQC weapons. And in a combination with Jägeris they are now very good combo, because think about Jägeris as a Rangers RRC standoff. They have the Carl Gustaf M4, which is the top tier anti-tank rocket launcher, and also the MDR and machine gun. So Force Recon and Jägeris are very nice combination, because you have totally 12 guys that can fight both infantry and vehicles. Then we have a Scimitar. It's interestingly surprisingly good, very excellent for the price, and it can provide good early game fire support, or you can perhaps use it for a flanking. It can stand its own against some Russian BMPs, so nothing to sneeze at. And I'm also bringing Spartan with the Spike artillery missile upgrade. This Spike is something like a Javelin with the premium range and the top attack. The strength is in the fact that you can fire it on the move, you don't have to stop, and it's terminal guided, it's quite fast. We also can switch Jägeris with either SD Scouts or SUV, but SD Scouts are not good, the spies are crap and they're not really good at anything much. You get overshot by autocannons, you get overshot by tanks. Even though the spikes are fire and forget, these are not the top attack, so they don't do much of the damage with this low pen, and they're extremely slow, so they can be easily evaded or smoked out. So I don't recommend SD Scouts. And SUV are quite interesting close combat units. You can alternatively pick these and change Force Recon to Green Ops. So this way you have standoff Force Recon supported by close range SUV, but I decided to do it the other way around because I really fell in love with the Jägeris. Infantry. I took every Milan ER I can, because for 75 points you got a squad of 4 men that have double Milan ATGM launcher. So this means that you can get through the APS very easily. The range is not really that good, but the damage is significant, and these guys, I was a bit skeptical before, and I used either Javelin or Spike, but I was wrong. I think these Milans are really awesome. If you can, give them a chance. This price allows you to use them in the doubles, which means that you can fire 4 missiles at the same time at the enemy target. And I bring them in XA180, which is the quite quick vehicle that doesn't have much armor or HP, but it's very fast. As a manpad, either use Buron or RBS-70. Buron is basically equivalent of Russian Verba, although RBS-70 has slightly higher range and flies a bit faster, but the damage and the penetration is a bit lower, and you have to stand because the RBS-70 is not a single manpad. It's it needs to be like put on the ground, so you cannot fire on the move, unlike in Buron where you can. On the paper, the RBS-70 looks better, but I was not very successful with it. I stick with Buron, but feel free to use both, or you can use Grom. In this case, you will have double launchers. We have a slightly smaller range, but you might find it useful to bring only one squad, which can fire twice at the enemy target. Marine Raiders CQC are the usual infantry killer, and there is no difference in this deck either. They are perfect for shotguns, M72, LAW, grenade launcher, Mark 18 CQBRs. They are ultimate at fighting the enemy, either in the buildings or in the forest. You can combine these guys. I usually combine it with Force Recon, but since I'm taking Force Recon in the CQC and I want to have some anti-tank capability, I rather recommend combining Marine Raiders this time with Jaegers. So you have 6 Jaegers, 14 Marine Raiders, that's 20 in total. You can put them into MDVR or AAVP. Assaultmen, small and Marines are the usual combo. Use them together if you can. They have huge... they can take a huge damage and still continue fighting, and the SMAW can provide excellent fire support, both anti-infantry and anti-tank. Zaliukai, similar to Delta Force but smaller in the squad. You have very good capability at dealing with the enemy infantry from the very close range. You can pick either EST, SOF or these Zaliukais. I don't yet have a strong opinion of whether any of them might be better. The thing is that I already took Marine Raiders CQC, so considering that these guys have the LAWs and grenade launchers, I think it might be better to take Zaliukais, which have a flashbangs, and also these machine guns, shotguns, which are excellent at when fighting inside the same building or very close area. But I think nothing goes wrong if you pick either of these two. I just prefer Zaliukais at this moment. And then we have Gielis and his Pilkas, which are your main cheap line infantry in CV90. CV90, I broke base Mark III variant. I did not upgrade to Mark IV because I don't see the price justified. You're paying 70 points for 2 trophy charges and 2 spikes, again, which can be fired on the move, but I think that for 90 points you got good enough Bushmaster 3 and you take the up armor variant. This up armor variant provides the best infantry fighting vehicles on the US side regarding the kinetic defense, but be careful regarding anti-explosive because it's not really that high. Kinetic defense is higher than in Bradley's or the AMPVs, but the heat armor is much lower. I also bring ACV-30. I don't usually do that because I either bring my units in these trucks or these transports when playing Marines, but in this case I decided to do it because, like I said, I love using Force Recon and Jägeris in a double as a combo, and therefore you have 12 men, and those can be fit perfectly into ACV-30 because it has 13 seats. I decided to also upgrade to Bushmaster Autocannon 2 and bring the up-armored version. Although it just increased the HP and the side armor, maybe it's not worth it in the end. And we also have the Vilkas. These are quite good, quite fast. Think about it as striker, but with the javelin, and that's all in the infantry. A little bit of side note, the MTVR I take all 4 because this is what I mainly use for transporting on my infantry. 21 seats plus some supplies are always good to bring. You can load either Marine Raiders with Jägeris, or you can, if you want, load Marines with Assaultmen Small, or you can put any combination of the infantry inside the vehicle until you hit 21 seats. So a little bit of side note, maybe some of you might be asking why I have so few transports. It's because I'm using MTVR. If you're assaulting position, you have to use the armored though. Vehicles. So we have one Leopard 2A8 BSO with the heavy machine gun, because otherwise you will not deal much damage to the infantry. And I did not bring the one with trophy because that would cost 320 points, which is quite expensive for a tank that has 17 HP and only 450 penetration, where other tanks in this price range usually have 500 penetration. So I decided to bring this one, and also it has 18 HP and a bit higher side armor. So you have to keep in mind to defend against ATGM because it have a trophy, but I think this tank is much more cost effective, or at least much more price appreciate. And then we have the M1H1 Heavy Cavalry, the most effective US tank in the game. Excellent piece for 225 points. You got 18 HP, little smaller front armor, but still good enough. Very good anti-explosive protection, and quite decent cannon with double medium and double heavy machine guns. Then we have the Type X RCV. These are the only unmanned ground drones in the game so far. I decided to use the one which gives you Spike LR. That's because you have 2 of them and you can, like I said, fire them on the move, and it's also reach is very significant. 1600 meters is very good range, and that's why I also bring a G-Wagon Spike. Regarding Type X, you will run out of the ammo very quickly because there is no crew, nobody to reload, so you have to go back and forth between the supply depots and frontline very often. But keep in mind that this vehicle cannot get suppressed because it's a drone, nobody's inside, but you will die very quickly because you have very low armor and also very low HP. And then we have G-Wagon Spike. Like I said, I also use here this Spike variant. You can either bring Mapads or Milan. Milan is extremely cheap, but you have only one launcher, unlike in the infantry, but for the price whatever you want, right? But before the missile raise the targets, you will most likely die, and the missile shot will end in vain. So since this vehicle can be killed so easily, I think you have to either use the map pads or spike, because only in these two variants you have the range advantage. You can also bring low AT, but I'm still testing the spike on G-Wagons. Maybe I'll switch later. M60s are also available, quite efficient medium tanks. And you can also use M1A1 FAPs in case you will be bored with Leopard 2A8s, but they're slightly better. Either though, you have the much better 500 kinetic penetration on FAPs. I still have a lot of points available on vehicles, but since I spent more points elsewhere, I was forced to take less armor. In support, I'm bringing the Pack 2s, low ADs with double stinger pods and the armor plus smoke upgrade. In my opinion, one of the most cost efficient shorats in the game. Of course, you don't have the range as on some radar shorats, but you have quite good HP, decent armor, smoke, you're very fast, and you also have this minigun that can protect you even against ground units like infantry, for example. Then we have Unimog with ZU-23. I wasn't very successful with the Mistrals, although many people are praising it. I'm using this ZU because it's an excellent, cheap flank protector. And also it can provide some interesting fire support, mainly during the early game, because you have quite significant range and you can outrange enemy infantry. Only small arms, you will not outrange the ATGMs. Then we have the K9 from the Baltic. I'm taking the extended range because I want those 6 guided missiles. It's quite good if you want to laser targets by the snipers over here. Feel free to use them. If you have money and you're not struggling on the front line, bring 1 or 2 and you can easily get advantage. It's very good artillery piece. And we have the Catface, and this is the reason why this deck is extremely good against anti-infantry. You can pick 2 of these, and along with that you have excellent cost-efficient armor and excellent infantry with anti-infantry capabilities. So with this build, including Catface, you should be able to win any close range / forest fights, but still have capabilities in other areas. Sure, you will not be very strong in close range, such as special forces with Marines or special forces with Baltics, but those 2 that I previously named will struggle in the open, and you will not struggle in the open. The MTVRs, this is the main infantry taxi. Just don't go close to the front lines because you'll blow up very easily. And LVSRs are the supply dump trucks. You also have options to take some of the Baltic anti-air. I wasn't very successful with that, but feel free to try the NASAMS with 6 AMRAMs. It's basically like a slam ram from the airborne, but reskinned. You can also try Pauser Haubitze 2000, but this has no guided munition. So feel free to test. I think this is, for me and for my playstyle, the best combination that I can. Support tab is really strong in this one. Helicopters, we have the Vipers with the Hellfires and APKWS rockets, and also sidearm to pick up enemy radar shorats. Sometimes you get successful, lucky, and you kill Tunguska or anything like that. If you don't feel like it, you can put it down and make the Viper a bit cheaper. But I was quite surprised how many kills I sometimes have with this anti-radiation missiles, and it's usually random. It's never whether I intended it, but sometimes your opponent just forget to turn off or don't expect that your chopper would have this missile, so it might be handy. Then we have two Super Cobras, excellent at the opening because of two Sidewinders. I was a bit surprised that it's not really that good against choppers, but it's very good against planes. You can still reliably kill the Killer X or Kiowas if you play mirror match. I was not very successful against the Russian Ka-52s, but sometimes it can work. It's just 145 points, so you can usually shoot down enemy plane, but you have to click it, and sometimes you'll be able to shoot down enemy helicopters. These Zuni rockets have quite good range and the damage, also the heat penetration, but you run out of them very quickly because you have only 8 in each of these two rocket pods. And then we have Venoms, good for transporting, also you can bring small amount of supplies, or you can just use them for simple fire supports. Regarding Air Force, you can build it in several different ways. I decided to bring one Hornet with the cheap variant where you can fight any kind of enemy threat. You can either lob long-range missiles on the other side, you can use the AMRAAMs for closer air-to-air combat, or you can use Sidewinders mostly against enemy choppers. Then we have one Prowler. Sometimes one of your teammates might ask for a seat and you might have just enough points. It's very cheap, very efficient. It does the job very effectively. And then we have double F-35Bs. Unlike F-35, you can't really kill those expensive heavy tanks with more than 17 HP in one bombing run. You have to damage them first, but it's still quite good because of the stealth, and it's cheap for what it can actually do. You can also decide to go for heavier, either use them as close air support, or you can use them as very cheap fighters. They can also put the seed missiles, so you can play with that. You don't have many points in the air tab because Marines bring 1000 points, the Baltic brings 250, which is 1250 in total, but you still can build something pretty decent. You can, for example, remove one F-35 and bring one more Hornet if you feel like it. Depends. So, that's it. I'm really thinking that this is currently the best combination of what you can get with the new Baltic battalion, because Marines make them strong not only in terms of support and vehicle, but also very strong in terms of infantry and air force. It's not really ideal. You are lacking a little bit of air units. You don't have any long-range MLRS. You might want to have more tanks, but I think that in a way how combats usually go, it should be good enough, and you should not be weakened in any significant role that you want to play. Alright, thanks for watching. If you have any thoughts or questions, just type in the comments below. If there's something else you would like me to break down, let me know, and thanks for watching. See ya!